What's good, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Land Grant Podcast Network's Power 2 Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jordan, and I'm here with my co host, DJ. How we doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm better than I was last week. I can tell you that. I 100% had the stomach flu. It was horrible. I was sick for 4 days. Um, excuse me. I'm not sick anymore, but I'm still getting over it.
That does not sound fun. I'm
It
glad that
was
you're
horrible.
feeling better.
My deathbed, I was on it, like fully. Actually, pretty much the only healthy moment I had all weekend was the 5 seconds that I was on the podcast. And then for the rest of the week, I was dead.
Hmm,
So, yes. How are you?
I'm good. I'm exhausted, but
The breath before answering.
I'm good. I'm just
Oh my god.
very tired. It's been a busy weekend. It's been a good weekend. Um,
Yes,
but
you have a friend in town and such.
yeah. Um, but it has led to and like I be in bed early and I haven't been going to bed as early, and then I haven't been sleeping as well, and then I was out of the house basically all weekend, and all of those things leads to me being dead right now. Like I'm literally
Yes.
just like barely have enough energy to get to this podcast. I was like laid out on my couch.
Not laid
uh,
out.
yeah, I was so close to being asleep, and I was like, you know what? Let me just get up. Let me do this now. If I don't do it now, I don't know if it's happening. So
That's crazy.
I'm
He was
here.
like, we might have to take a week off. Like
Yeah, we
we
wondering.
we need a bye week. That is very true though. Um we gotta work a bye week into this somewhere. um
Yeah. So
yeah.
there's news, as always, in this time of the year. There is news. The news of the day is going to focus on coaches. I m- maybe I've missed something. I hope I haven't missed something, but a lot of things happen. We give you what we can here. So, coaching updates.
No, you
UCF has rehired Scott Frost. Scott Frost, for those of you who don't know, is one of the better coaches in UCF memory. He then history. He then took that job and did really well for their standards. And he got the Nebraska job as the hometown hero, and then he was awful at Nebraska, got fired, has been out of coaching for a couple of years. And you don't always see this where schools rehire coaches, but he didn't leave on bad terms. He just got a promotion and wasn't good at that promotion. And so they hired him back, and we will see if he can remake the magic that he had at UCF. I don't know if he will, but I do believe that there are some coaches that are just better at a lower level. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so we'll see. But yeah, so I mean, I thought that was kind of interesting that they went back to him, and that he's back into coaching. Purdue hires Barry Odom. Barry Odom was the head coach at UNLV, and
Hmm.
he's also maybe the best coach that they've had, at least recently. They were, I mean, they were just. We're gonna briefly mention them later, but they were. Can I not read?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, I can't read. They're ranked for like the first time in a long time, and they were in the Mountain West conference
Championship.
championship game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's a really good coach. I think that is a good hire for Purdue. I don't know if that's a good job for him. Personally, I think I would have stayed at UNLV, but
Yeah.
money talks.
It
It is
does. Very loudly.
climbing the career ladder. It is a better job. Ability to, I mean, like UNLV was a win against Boise away from making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Purdue's never making the playoffs. I don't think that's happening. So he's a good coach, but I think that's a really hard job. I personally think I maybe would have stayed at UNLV, but someone has to
Pretty
coach Purdue.
good job, yeah. But I
Someone has
think,
to coach
some
Purdue.
people's egos convince them of other
That's coaching,
things.
that's how
Yeah,
it goes.
yeah.
Southern Miss hires Charles Huff, which is interesting. Charles Huff just won the Sun Belt,
Sure. I don't
one of
know.
those conferences at Marshall, one of those
Oh,
conferences
yes.
that exist. But supposedly that relationship was eroding, and he wanted out of there. So, despite the fact that he had a good season and just won the conference, uh,
He still
he's
said,
out.
"Bye, thank you."
He did. He's gone. He is now going to be at Southern Miss. Charlotte hires Tim Albin. The except for this one is interesting. Tim Albin just first of all the the theme that we have right here is coaches who just won conference championships leave.
Mhm,
This is
mhm.
the third coach in a row that I'm going to say this about, but Tim Albin just won Ohio University's
Uh-huh.
first MAC championship or first in like 60 years or
Sorry.
something crazy. It's been a very, very long time. They've been five times, either ever or recently, and was 0-5.
Oh,
So this
wow.
is
So
like
this
he
was oh,
reversed
okay.
history. Um, he won, and then he left. He's now going to Charlotte. Um, that I mean,
Wow.
I cannot root for Ohio because it was the third school that I graduated for, and I just didn't have it in me as a second time like grad student. Like I didn't buy into it like I did like WVU. It was just a different experience. I was
Oh,
also
yeah.
like
Yeah.
working full time and things like that. I mean, I'm wearing a West Virginia like sweater right now,
Period.
but I do like care about them in a way. Like I do have a degree from there. They did take some of my money, so I'm happy about that. But not happy that he's leaving. But promotions, money talks. You do like that. Um, Another odd connection to me. App State fired Sean Clark, who I used to work with when I worked with Kent State's football team.
Oh,
He
wow.
was the offensive line coach at Kent State. He left Kent State to be the coach in waiting at App State. And then a couple other people got the job, but then he stayed there and he got the job, but he wasn't good at it, which can't say that
Oops.
I'm necessarily surprised.
Oops.
Um,
Okay.
he's not there anymore. And they hired what has to be a Sims character, has to be, like when you're playing NCAA and they just create names because they don't have real coaches.
Because they need to put the
That's
people in, yeah.
Yeah, that's who they hired. And Dow Loggins, I have never heard of this guy before. He sounds
Okay.
fake. Clearly he's real, but he sounds fake. Um, I feel like which I haven't played the game in a while, but I feel like next time I log into the game, like I'm gonna see Dow Loggins. He looks fake.
Not he looks
he
fake. Now I
he
have to
also
Google him too.
looks fake. Where did he even come from? Who is he?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so he coached for the Titans, the Browns, the Bears, the Dolphins, the Jets.
Oh,
And he's
Jesus.
in
He's had about
Arkansas.
14,000 jobs
Yeah. He was just most recently the
at
offensive
South
coordinator at
Carolina.
South Carolina.
Interesting.
Ooh. His
I don't.
offense ranked 12 out of 14 in the SEC in points per game and last in the SEC in rushing yards.
So, yeah, let's make him a head coach instead. I love when white men fail upwards. Okay. So, anyway,
Yeah.
moving on from
Cool, cool,
that.
cool, 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 cool. And then FIU hired everyone's Uncle Willie Simmons.
Yes, because with a name like Willie Simmons, you have to be an uncle. I would like to just explain my random excitement that I just had because clearly I'm not overjoyed about coaching hirings. I don't care. Uh, TCU and South Carolina are playing right now, the women's, because who cares about the men's? The women's basketball teams are playing each other right now, and Ashlyn Watkins got a steal and then just slammed and just had a one-handed slam dunk in the first quarter. So that should just let you know what type of basketball I am in for today. Because all of y'all who are like, women's basketball isn't interesting. They should dunk more. Have you watched it? Because they do be dunking. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That was it. Yeah. It just looked like I was really excited about Tim Albin, and I'm not. But congrats to all of these people for getting
Yeah,
jobs, I guess.
yeah, including our Sims character, Dow Loggins.
Dow Loggins.
Okay,
Anyway.
so we are going to take our break pretty early. When we come back, we're going to talk briefly about the conference championships. We're going to talk briefly about the college football playoff rankings, and we're going to talk briefly about all of the bowl games that were announced. There's a lot of information. This is going to be a very news heavy-ish type show without much analysis because these games don't happen for 2 weeks. So if we give you the analysis today, we
Now.
won't have anything to talk about next week or the week after because
Right.
it is December 9th as you're hearing this. The first game is not until December 20th.
20th. Yeah. Yeah.
And I listened to a bunch of podcasts. I haven't listened yet, but they're going to give a bunch of analysis. I already know it. And then they're just going to talk about the same thing for the next 2 weeks. We are going to spare you.
We're not going to bore you in that way.
Provide it when we're closer. So we're mainly just going to give first thoughts. But we'll be right back.
There it is. One-handed dunk.
We love that. That is a great way to go into the ad, but only for the video listeners, because if you have forgotten, we are now on YouTube. You can find us on
YouTubes
at Get Defensive Sports Network, on the YouTube, on the TikTok, on the Blue Sky, not on Twitter. Twitter's a dying app. On the Instagrams. You can find us. We'll be right back after the ads. What's good, everybody? Welcome back into the Power 2 podcast, where we are here to talk about the power of a good power
college football
nap.
playoffs.
No.
Oh, what? A good power nap. Yes.
We were not locked in. We normally be locked in, but
we usually are there.
I was power napping, and you were doing your job. You were transitioning into the podcast.
We were talking about the show. That's what I thought we were doing.
As one should hope, but
oh my god,
I was going for jokes.
Sorry, that's on me. That's on me.
So what happened? Well, all of the conference championship games happened.
What happened?
Yeah, I mean, that
yes. Yes, I just wasn't prepared.
Let us break down. Let us talk. Let us review. Let us gather.
Let us.
First of all, how do you feel about the season being over? Like the regular season. Obviously, with the 12-team playoff, we still have like 2 more months, which is
8 years left. Yes.
Glorious. Perfect. I love it. I mean, it's great. It is nice that there's a break, because that's one of the problems with the NFL season is it just goes on and on and on. And then you're like, man, do I even like football at the end of it? But like you get like a little, I think this is too long. Again, this is the 8th. The first game is in 12 days. That's like a long time. What are your thoughts? I mean, how do you feel about the regular season being over?
Oh man, the regular season was fine. It was everything that I expected it to be, if that makes sense. Like I've always been distantly aware of college football. This was just the first year that I actually was like genuinely watching it, and so I'm like, there's some things that happened that I didn't expect, like Bama losing to Vanderbilt. But there was also things that I did expect. Obviously, I didn't expect SMU's season. That threw me off. But as far as like just the regular season being over, I feel like it happened really fast too. Like, I feel like we were just previewing, and then now it's like it's over and there's conference champions. Like, I feel like it went by really fast.
I don't love that.
Not a fan of that.
Favorite thing, to be honest. And as does, as the college football season moves on, so does life. which means I'm buying Christmas presents. And like my wife just put up the Christmas tree and stuff like that. And I'm like 3 months out from being 30. And I'm just like, what happened? Like when we started this podcast, it was like 30 in the distant future. And now it's like tomorrow.
30
And
is knocking on your door right now.
I get paid monthly. I've mentioned this. I think you do too. And
Yeah,
so
we do.
now I view everything in paychecks. And I'm just like, oh my God, I have 3 paychecks until my birthday. Like, and I'm like, I need to be able to pay for my birthday. Like, it's just like 3 paychecks like that. Like, and you know, when you get paid monthly, the time also speeds up because you're just like, when is this next check coming?
No, the
So
last check of the year is always the worst one because it's the one check all year you have to make last for 6 weeks. I don't know if they do that with y'all, but like they obviously pay us in December, like way before.
okay.
Because
So I looked at our pay schedule. First of all, this is the first year at this job, so I don't know. But I looked at our
oh,
pay
okay,
schedule, and it looks like we're not getting it early, which bless,
I
because
would
at
love
my
that.
last job, we did get it early, and
I
we got
hate
paid twice a month. So it was the same thing. We would get it on like the 20th. So we typically got paid on the first and
first
the
and
15th.
15th. Mm-hmm.
And so we would get paid on the 15th, and then we would get that next one basically like 7 days later. So like this year, um, if I was still there this year, we would get it on the 13th just because the 15th is on Sunday. And then that next one, I think we would get like the 20th. Like I think we'd get like a week later or something. I don't remember the exact day. But then yeah, and then you wouldn't get paid again until the 15th. So
Until
it's
January.
literally
Yeah,
like a month. And I'm just like, I
yeah.
I get it. It's cute. It's nice. You want us to have a little bit of money for the holidays, but now I don't got no money
Now
until January
I'm
15th.
struggling. Like, and
You
January
didn't
is
think
such
this
a
through.
long month.
You didn't think
Like,
this through. Like such a long month for so many reasons. Like you did not think this through. So I do think that I do not get it early, which bless. But I also started, which is another reason that I'm tired. I started a second job, which is not really a job, but it is. I'm tutoring,
oh,
and it's something that I can do from home on my computer. So basically, like when at night when I'm just like sitting down on the couch watching TV, I'm now typing to college students
not
or
typing.
asynchronously reading essays. And
Asynchronously, that is the word of the day, people. You using SAT words. That was a $20 word. Asynchronously. Wow.
I almost get, I wish they paid me $20 to do it, but you know, um,
Child, anyways, we are so off topic. But yes, anyways, you have 3 paychecks to your birthday. You're almost 30. The season went by so fast. This is craziness.
so long.
Um,
It's all it's
I feel the
quite
exact
long.
same way.
I mean, but the season was great. I mean, the season was
Yeah.
always great. I feel like if you take Ohio State out of it, the season was one of the better in recent memories. And I feel like such good things happened. The football gods were like, Ryan Day just has to pitch you off. Like we're gonna give
Right.
you Alabama's downfall. We're gonna give you, SMU. We're gonna give you the crazy. Literally, I was talking to one of my friends, and we were like, I didn't expect that the first playoff would be like the college football game. And for those of you who don't get that, when you play the college football game, they try to put logic into it, but
Yeah.
it's hard, and so you get like weird things, like you get like Wake Forest in the national championship game or something like that, right? Like when I started playing, NC State was one of the toughest teams that I played. And it's like NC State, like be for real. Like you just get these like weird things because of just the algorithm. And then what happened, which we're gonna talk about briefly, weird things. Fucking Arizona State and SMU is in the playoffs. Clemson is in the playoffs as the 12 seed.
As the
Like
12.
it's literally like a simulation, like in the college football game. So it's just like
I
it's
saw a
very
couple tweets
funny
about that actually.
that
Somebody
like
was like, the fact that SMU and TCU made it to the playoffs before A&M, like,
yeah, like
it is insanity.
yeah, it's very like it's very Sims-esque. That is the concept of the show, I guess. The Sims are taking over our lives. But it's just funny. It was like, man, like this year was crazy. Like it very much felt like a simulation from the college football game where you're looking at this and you're like, Alabama's 9-3, sure. Ohio State 2 losses. Yeah, all right. And SMU is 11-1. Okay, yeah, I believe that's gonna happen. And then what happened? Exactly that. So
That is what happened.
it was a it
Someone's
was a
good.
it was a great season though. Just much too fast.
It was fast. Someone tweeted, viewers would reject this as a movie for being too scripted. Undefeated FSU gets snubbed for Bama. FSU sues to leave the ACC for holding them back. FSU particularly sues for adding SMU, who they said is terrible and drags the conference down. FSU wins one conference game. SMU goes undefeated in the ACC until the last second loss to Clemson in the championship. 2-loss SMU gets the benefit of the doubt over Bama. You really can't you couldn't have scripted it more even if you wanted to. And I'm still anyway, it has been a whirlwind for sure. But what I will say is I hope that we're on a similar trajectory that we were on this year where we got so many top 10 and top 5 matchups, so it kind of felt to me, I felt like that added to the entertainment value of the season was that like the top teams were consistently playing each other. So love that. Want more of that.
For sure. Honestly, I think the only kind of depressing thing outside of the season actually ending is like all of the coaches prostituting themselves because they lost games. And it's just like, hey, gang, you could have won. Like, Alabama should be in the playoffs. No, Alabama lost. And it's like, the SEC is so hard. And it's just like, hey, gang, listen, here's the thing. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Dang.
Hear me out. You lost to Vanderbilt.
To Vanderbilt.
Like they're acting like we're stupid, and they're like, if Alabama doesn't get in, it's gonna ruin. No one's ever gonna play a tough schedule again. And it's like, hold on, whoa.
Y'all lost to 6 teams.
Like you act like this is because Alabama lost. Alabama played Ohio State and lost, right?
What? Yes.
You act like if these teams like that you didn't get punished for playing. Like Clemson's in. Clemson didn't get punished for being dog walked by Georgia, a Georgia team that has 2 losses. Granted, yes, they did win the SEC, but a Georgia team with 2 losses. Clemson didn't get punished. Alabama's not being punished for their tough schedule. They're being punished for losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
What was throwing me was the conversation that was happening during the selection show where they were really almost acting like the committee was misguided for choosing SMU over Bama. I was like, what conversation are we having right now? Because the last time I checked when I was looking at Bama's schedule was, yeah, they had a tough schedule, whatever. They played a lot of ranked teams, whatever, blah, blah, SEC, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. But when it was time for you to win, when it was time for you to go in and just smack the shit out of the opponents that you should have, in theory, smack the shit out of, you didn't. You didn't. You lost to Vanderbilt and you lost to OU. So let's not sit here and say, because this was the dramatic thing that was making me mad, was the whole conversation was, okay, well, if they pick SMU, then they set the precedent that making it to a conference championship doesn't matter. Or if they don't pick SMU. If they pick Bama, it shows that basically strength of schedule matters more than the fact that you made it to a conference championship. If they pick SMU, then it shows that strength of schedule doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I don't think that that's what that means at all. Like, I think that they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. I guess, if that's what you want to say. They were stuck between a rock and a hard place. They had to pick somebody. But to pick a team that didn't even make it to their conference championship over a team that did is insane. Did he just answer the phone while in the...
All right, welcome back. We got interrupted because life happens. And
life be life.
So we are back again, and DJ was making very good points about how stupid people are for trying to say that SMU shouldn't be in the playoffs.
Oh, yes. And Yes, it's
That's
one of
where we
those
were.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the biggest thing that was frustrating was just how disingenuous the conversation was and how they almost were like coming for the committee, the gods, the whoever makes the decisions, the commission, whatever, whoever they are, um, in this weird way, like almost like they were wrong for choosing SMU. Like it was just weird. Like it was just very like, oh, but strength of schedule, like how much does that matter? Because, SMU didn't really play anyone and this and this. And I'm like, okay, well, neither did some of the teams that made it in. So if we're gonna go off of just strength of schedule, like I don't understand what we're talking about. Like, and again, strength of schedule matters, yes, but Bama lost to people that they shouldn't have lost to. So this is still just a genuine conversation. It just all around. I was so concerned and frustrated when we lost the championship because I was like, they're gonna find a way to bullshit around this and put Bama in over us, and I'm gonna be mad because Bama wasn't better than us this year. I don't care.
Yeah, I never thought that that was going to happen just because, like, this committee, even in like 6 weeks ago when it first started, and to be honest, we do not need 6 weeks of rankings. But 6 weeks ago when it first started, there were some things that they did that I felt like showed that they were trying to be like intentional. Like,
Mm,
like even with some of the rankings of like Power Five teams that lost, like how far they fell, and some of it seems like they were trying to kind of like be a little bit legit with it. And so I was surprised that Alabama worked their way back into that. And I think they
yeah,
could have saved a lot of conversation if they just hadn't put Alabama 11.
yeah,
But I didn't the way that they had acted and the way they had ranked things before, I didn't think that they were going to do that. Just like, even though, because to make the Bama argument, you have to make a lot of other arguments too, because if you're doing the Bama thing, that means you have to reevaluate a lot and you have to figure out where to put them. And if you're reevaluating, you could argue that Ohio State should be the highest two-loss team. That's not a conference
right.
championship. They have a better resume than Notre Dame. They have a better resume than Penn State, and they beat Penn State. They have a better resume than Texas. So, are you reevaluating the whole thing, or are you giving respect to the teams that made conference championships and not punishing them? Not punishing them led to Texas, Penn State being ahead of Ohio State and SMU still being in there. If you open up that bag, you need to reseed because you couldn't put Bama in, but then leave Ohio State at 8, and it just opens up a lot. And so it's just very. I think the whole thing was disingenuous, and that's why I used the specific word that I used, because it wasn't for me. It doesn't feel like regular politicking. I get politicking, right? Like if Ohio State, which I first of all, I'm glad he didn't. Ryan Day
Yeah.
has not been doing this, and good, because shut the fuck up. Like nobody wants to hear you talk right now. Like nobody, like
Do not speak.
do your bare minimum obligations. But if Ohio, if Ryan Day came out and was advocating for the 5 seed or the 6 seed, and oh, but we beat Penn State and we did all these things, I'd be so annoyed.
Like, don't start.
But
Yeah.
advocating these minor things, like that's just kind of regular politicking, I think. But like saying that you should be in when you have 3 losses over this team because of this and all of these made up metrics and things that you can't prove, and who's like, genuinely, who's to say SMU wouldn't be Alabama?
Who's to say?
Like Alabama, you lost to Vandy.
Who's to
You got
say?
dog walked by OU. It wasn't even a close game.
It
You
was,
scored 3 points.
they did not
So
score. They did
we
not score.
really just can't do this thing. Like, you know what I
Oh
mean?
my
Like,
gosh.
and then the other problem that I have with that, right, is yes, South Carolina lost to Bama, right? And they did these things, but they lost earlier. If we're looking at the 9-3 teams, South Carolina's playing the best. They just beat Clemson. So if you're putting in a team, you need to also look at that. Like it's just disingenuous to be like, we're gonna honor the fact that Bama beat South Carolina, but not so South Carolina has no argument to get in because they lost to Bama. They have to be behind them because they lost, despite the
Mhm.
fact that South Carolina has been winning recently, just beat Clemson, who's the ACC champ, has been peaking. Bama has not been peaking, and but it's like, oh, but they lost earlier. So you just like it's just dumb. Like you can't pick essentially the playoffs rankings and the committee and the things like that. Like it's always going to be a little bit weird. It's always going to be hard. There's always fake metrics and things like that. but there are bare minimum things that you have to stick to, and
And
losing
putting
games is
it,
one of them.
yes,
And unless you're a conference champ, in most years, there is not going to be a three-loss team. There's not going to be a three-loss team that gets into the 12 unless they get in like Clemson did.
which Clemson is a
Because
very
Clemson, and they needed
crazy
a lot of
situation.
help. They
Yeah,
needed they needed
they needed
Mario
help.
Cristobal to be a
Yeah,
loser, and
yeah.
he
They
did
didn't
that
get
for
in
them.
because they
Like
got themselves in.
right, they got in because their two losses were non-conference games, and Mario Cristobal's a loser.
And Mario Cristobal's a loser. And
No,
the
no,
only reason why they got in seated higher than us is because if
they're not seated
the
higher. They're
longer
12.
well seated as far as like isn't it like technically they're like 6 or 7 or something like that, and then we're 11 in the playoffs rankings, not like in the actual AP ones. Did I like misunderstand that? Yeah, like we're
Let me tell
11
you,
and they're. Wait, I'm confused.
Clemson's the 12 seed. What are you looking at?
Wait, I'm confused. Oh, I guess I assumed they were seated higher because they were announced before we were. I thought they were announcing them in order. Now I'm looking and realizing that is not the case.
I was gonna say we got all these.
I thought they were
What is
announcing us in order.
Oh,
They were. Oh no, they were announcing by site. Now that I'm realizing it, they were announcing by site. They announced all of the first week buys, and then they announced all the home teams. Sorry, I woke up immediately and started watching the show. Help us, Jesus! I didn't have no coffee. I didn't have nothing. I just started watching the show because I thought they weren't about to put us in. Anyways, the point is, what I was getting at with Clemson is Clemson got in on a wing and a prayer and one of the longest field goals that they've ever made in their freaking franchise history, which is crazy.
yeah, and even with the Clemson thing, they were honest, and and Clemson is the 12 seed. Because like
Yeah,
it also would have been disingenuous to make Clemson and say Clemson was better than Arizona State and Boise. And so they didn't do that because they
yeah.
had them ranked higher because Clemson wasn't even supposed to be here. But then again, of course, Miami lost. And so they stayed true to that. And so I think a lot of people, like people saying that they took like the coward's way out and they took whatever, like they did it right. Because if you didn't do it, if you did anything else, right? If you jumped Clemson over Boise or Arizona State, if you put in Bama, if you did all these things, then you literally wasted 6 weeks of rankings. You
Yeah,
shouldn't do any ranking. You should reveal it on Sunday, and then you can do whatever the hell you want. But
yeah,
when you release rankings and you create a standard and you put these teams and you rank these things in certain positions, you cannot. There's no way you can then go on TV and say, "Well, we had Clemson 18 or whatever because they were 9-3 and we thought these teams were better, but because they won, they're now better. And so we're going to jump them and put them at the 4 seed." And so
yeah. That'd be crazy.
I think that there are flaws in the process, but one of my biggest things is consistency, right? Like good or bad, right? Like I like my racist to be racist. Don't hide it. Be consistent, right? You know what I mean? Like if this is what you feel,
That's
if
a
you're wrong,
crazy
if
example.
you're, I know, but that's my point. That's a strong example. Like my thing is like, if you're wrong, be consistently wrong. Like that's how you like.
Yeah,
I have conversations with people, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And if I give them a scenario, we've had these conversations. I'm like, if I give you a scenario, and you're like, yeah, in that scenario, I would still think this. Okay, at least you're consistent. Throw my
right.
hands up. And you not wishy washy. That's how you feel. You're consistent about it. That's fine. And so you don't have to love the rankings. You don't have to love the process. I don't think there's anyone in the world that loved the rankings or the process, but they were consistent to the standard that they set and the 6 wasted weeks of rankings because you really don't need to do them for 6 weeks. And that I think is the best that you could have asked for.
I agree. I was concerned because I understand sports politics, right?
You
And
were
I know
concerned because
that
everybody was prostituting themselves on ESPN.
crying. And for me,
Ass and
but
titty
I'm more so
shots.
saying like the sports politics
Fourth
of like the
thirds.
business of it. Like I'm more so saying like, were they feeling like the college, this first time the 12 team college football playoff is happening, whatever, blah, blah, we need eyeballs. does that look bad if we don't have Bama in there from a business standpoint? And I thought that they were going to make a decision like that, not necessarily about wins and losses and all those other things. Like I was more so concerned about like the BS backroom politicking of like money and networks and who they have
So
relationships with and all of that other crap. Like that's what was scaring me because I'm like, you are about to leave out a team that has by and large earned their way into this just like every other team on this list. You're gonna bypass them because of the script A on the helmet instead of what's actually happening on the field. That's what I was concerned about.
yeah,
So
I think like I hear that, but I was never worried about that because like when you're talking brands, it's not who brand, it's number of brands,
mhm.
and they have all the brands. You have three SEC teams. You
Yeah,
have
I mean they have
Oregon and
the
Nike.
brands. They do.
Like you have Ohio State. You have fucking Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Like so for
Yeah.
me, like if it looked different, I could maybe see like that. And like I definitely could see some years where that's a thing. But for
Yeah.
me in this one, I just didn't see it. You have Ohio, you have Clemson, former
You have I
power
mean,
that people thought was dying. Texas is back. Penn State's in here, and like I'm.
you got
That's
an
what I'm saying. Like
undefeated
that's what I'm
Oregon.
saying. Like you're not wrong in thinking that because those things do happen. But I was never concerned about that because they have so many brands that didn't like you do still have to have some sort of respect and decorum and like process to follow, right? Like, and I'm not, and not that you're being conspiratorial, but like there does have to be like a basis to these things, and so I think like while I do think that was obviously some sort of consideration because no, like I mean, they put Alabama at 11, right? Like they still put
Yeah,
them as
like
the
it's still a
first team
joke.
out,
Yeah.
but I think that there was enough brands and money and eyes and things that at some level they could still stick to the football. Like they didn't
I
have to
agree.
go
I
at
just
all.
wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure. And the thing is, this whole thing feels political to me from start to finish. Like, I feel like this is the only postseason that gets determined by something other than just straight record and merit alone. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, because it's not, and maybe I'm stupid, but there's not a committee that's sitting up choosing the people for the Sweet 16. It's just the top 16, is it not? Am I crazy?
Basketball, it has a lot of politics into it.
I mean,
Basketball has
yes,
more. Like
but it don't.
legitimately,
It's
it has more. But the process has been in place for so long, we've kind of accepted it. But even them, they've tried. They're in the process of trying to expand the tournament because they want
because of
more
it.
of these teams in
Yeah.
when the tournament's already large. Basketball is worse. This is just
Mm,
new. Like basketball is much worse. Like as far as like
mm.
auto bids and how these things work and like the who gets sent to the NIT
I
because
mean,
of
yeah, that part
brands
of it
and
is,
things like
yeah,
that. Like
yeah.
all of basketball is much worse. Like
That's. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just very like I don't
baseball's pretty
like.
bad too.
I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like these random white men sitting in a room together deciding things and then telling us how it's going to be. I just don't like it. Now, I live in America. So anyway, moving
Yeah,
right along from
I
that.
I think you're overthinking that one.
I don't know.
I
I
get it,
just
but
was
I
like,
think
it
you're overthinking.
felt so forced. The whole conversation about Bama in general felt forced. That I'm like, it's because y'all are trying to get them in. Because to me, I felt like this should have never been a conversation. When they lost to OU, that they should have never been mentioned for the playoffs ever again after that, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I
So
also
that's why I'm
but
like, you must be having this conversation for some other reason because this is damn dumb to still be sitting here talking about. If we're going to talk about a 9-3 SEC team, Bama's not the one. Not to me.
I think you have to separate who's making the decisions and the people that you see yelling on ESPN.
Obviously, I know. I'm saying
But
what
like
I'm saying is it felt like a disingenuous conversation from the beginning to consider a 9-3 Bama if we're considering a 9-3 SEC team. If that's part of the conversation, Bama is not the one to me. And so to me, I'm like, why are we so hell bent on getting Bama in? It must be because of something else. It can't be because of Bama. Like it can't be because of the product on the field, is what I'm saying. Because that's
I
we should be
mean,
talking about South
so
Carolina at that point. Then, if we're gonna talk about a 9-3 SEC team getting in over SMU, to me, Bama didn't seem like I'm just like, oh, it's because of something else. It's because of the brand. It's because of Nick Saban. It's because of you know what I'm saying? Like all that crap.
The football, what they would tell you, and I do believe that this is true to essentially the Bama thing is super simple. It's because I think that they would have done this for any SEC team. It just happened to be Bama. The football argument is very simple. They feel like you can't include South Carolina because South Carolina lost to Ole Miss and Bama. And so Ole Miss and Bama have to be above South Carolina. And then Alabama beat Ole Miss or Ole Miss did whatever. So Bama's
Yeah.
the only one that can be in this picture. Like Bama didn't get jumped over South Carolina because they were Bama. They got jumped over them because they lost. I just think that enough should be done that they could overcome that loss because of the other things in the resume. But this sport has never worked like that. So it's not like a conspiracy Bama. Like if Ole Miss was not, if Ole Miss would have beat Bama and was 9-3, they would have did the same exact thing for Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss was still trying to get in. It's just in their football minds, and they're like, well, 2+2 = 4. Bama beat South Carolina, so South Carolina's out of the picture. And ultimately, the real answer is we should have been talking about none of the 9-3 SEC teams.
None of them. Oh, yes. If I would like to back up fully, I don't want to talk about a damn 9-3 team at all. That's what I said last episode or 2 episodes ago. Nobody who's lost 3 times should be a part of this conversation any damn way. And maybe that was a lot of my frustration too, is I'm like, this is such bullshit. This is the SEC bullshit bias, the Bama bias that's happening because why are we talking about a team that lost 3 times, especially when 2, not 1, but 2 of your losses were 2 6-6 teams? Please stop pissing me off today. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. SMU made it in. I'm sorry. That was a very long-winded way of me saying I just couldn't stand all of those conversations that were happening. And then when we lost the championship, they were low-key trying to like shit on us a little bit. And it's like, I thought we weren't supposed to get punished for losing championships. Like we made it. So, and might I add, we made it and came back from a 17-point deficit. So I don't know. It was just, that's the part of college football that is very infuriating to me. But it's fine. We're here now. I was looking at, they were saying, and I wanted to ask you about this, but they were saying that the path to obviously like the championship, like the easiest path it's looking like, or not the easiest path, but the most favorable path is being at the 6th seed. Do you agree with that?
We'll get to that. Let's
Oh,
actually get to
okay.
that. Yeah, let's get back to the order of the show, and then we'll go back because
We're talking about the college football playoffs. That's part of the show.
No, we I know, but we skipped over something that doesn't make sense to go. We were in the middle of something before you went on your rant. Which
Okay,
is
sorry,
going through the teams that won the conference championships, because it's weird to talk about the playoffs and then go back to conference championships and whatever. So
I
it
thought we
doesn't
had
matter.
moved on from the conference championships. I don't know.
We
We
never
had a
we
20-minute
announced
gap.
one team. Yeah. Jacksonville State won whatever the hell conference they're in and beat Western Kentucky. They dog walked them 52-17, 12. Oh my God,
Jesus.
40 points. That's wild. Army wins the CUSA Conference USA.
No.
That's
The
they're in the
American
American.
Athletic Conference.
35-14 Tulane. That is not the showing that you wanted. That is a great year for Army. I think they only have 1 loss. Boise won 2. Who did they lose to? Army only has
They
1
lost
loss.
to Notre Dame and they lost to I don't know. I thought they had 2 losses. I'll look it up. I might be wrong. Keep going.
Boise State wins the Mountain West 21-7 over UNLV. That was, and Aston Genty. It was funny because like every once in a while the timing just kind of works, and the game was low-key like super boring until they just kept repeating, they keep giving Aston Genty these carries because they think that the 2 and the 3 yards add up, and they said it over and over and over and over and over because like he's such a good player that you don't want to be like he's having a bad game, so you have to be positive about it. And then like they said it again, and not even 20 seconds after they repeated it for the 50th time, 75-yard touchdown run.
I love.
And it's like they weren't wrong to say it. It was a little bit annoying, but like UNLV is the only team at all who held him under 4 yards of carry
Hmm.
in their first meeting. Everyone else, he was over 7. A lot of the games, he was in the 10s. So, like, they did good against him in the first time. So he wasn't having a good game because they had a good game plan, but they didn't have any other talking point. So they just kept saying it, and they like fucking willed it into existence because they finally said it again for like literally the 50th time, and boom, 75 yards. He one cut, and then he just literally just outran the safety.
Everybody
Like
else. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
destroyed, like the safety was in the hole. He didn't make a move on him or anything. He literally just like turned his steering wheel and
Not
ran
the steering
fast.
wheel.
And it's hilarious when you watch the run because he's running, he sees the safety, and he just just turns right. He literally the only way that I can put it is he turns. You know, like when like you're driving and you have to swerve, but it's not like
A little bit.
it's not
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
dangerous. So like like there's like a tire in the road, and so you just like curve a little bit and then you come back. Like it's
Yes.
like there's something you're like, ooh, what is that? You just curve a little bit and that's what he did. I swear to God, he didn't juke, he didn't spin, he didn't do nothing. He saw the safety and he just drifted
He
right
was like,
just a little bit,
"Excuse me, thank you."
and then he hit the burners and was gone. Just took the angle, but it was hilarious. And I'm like, so I'm watching. I'm like, man, like I know this is true, but do you have any other analysis of the game? And then boom, 75 yards. He finished. He finished the game with 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns or something like that.
Hmm.
I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman. I don't even
No,
remember
he's
when the
not.
Heisman's announced. He's probably not because a lot of Heisman voters
He's not.
sent it in too early. You were. I need to remember when hopefully it isn't announced before we do our next show because
It
I would
will
like.
be.
Is it?
It will be tomorrow.
It's announced on.
It's announced the day that this episode drops. Yeah. The finalists are announced the day that this episode drops. Sorry.
Oh, no one cares about finalists because we know they're both going to be finalists.
Sorry. The way that was written on Google, it made it sound like it was
Google
announced that
weird.
day. Sorry, it's announced on the 14th.
When's our next episode?
Then our next episode would drop on the 16th.
Okay. All right. My pitch stop, my 2-minute warning is going to be my Heisman case because
Okay,
you're
cool.
very strong that he's not going to win it. You're probably
He's
right,
not.
but I have a thought.
Okay.
On that. Ohio beats Miami in the MAC championship game. We kind of mentioned that because Tim Alvin then took that and got a new job. Arizona State, I mean,
smacked Iowa.
Smacked Iowa State.
Smacked
45-19. Just literally did whatever they wanted to. Their running back, Cam Scatterbo, 200 yards, multiple touchdowns. For one of my friends is an Ohio State fan, and he said he runs like Carlos Hyde. And if you remember Carlos Hyde, yeah, very fun, very much.
I like that comparison.
Not like super fast, not super shifty, deceptively in both, but just a strong, powerful runner.
Just a runner, yeah.
Just a runner.
Yeah.
Just like he's a throwback running back.
Yeah. He's almost like a fullback a little bit. Like he's just very like he just has like he has more size than anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of really his advantage. But yeah, he was having himself a game.
Yep. Georgia beats Texas 22-19.
What a game.
What a game.
What a game. Yes. And I say it in a way where I'm just like, what was I watching?
Boring. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what was I watching? I was just like, what a game. Like, what was happening?
Yeah.
That's
We're not doing our playoff predictions yet, but a lot of people have this thought that like Georgia's just gonna walk in, and I'm not sure if they've watched Georgia play recently.
No, they
Marshall
haven't, no.
beats Louisiana and whatever conference they play in. Like my mind is short circuited. I'm so tired.
And whatever conference they play in is crazy. Is that not the Sun Belt?
I'm sure it is. But if they're the Sun Belt, what conference is Jacksonville State in?
I don't know.
I know these things. I know that my mind is.
You're the one who knows the conferences. I'm not the one who knows the conferences.
I'm tired and I've had a lot going on. Who cares? They'll be all right. Marshall wins. Oregon beats Penn State in a game that was surprisingly really good. Penn State was down, and then they decided to score. Neither team played a lick of offense. My prediction of that game was really wrong, and that I thought it was going to be lower scoring. It wasn't. I thought
Yeah, it's the
Oregon was
Sun
going to
Belt.
win. Okay. I thought Oregon was going to win, but I didn't think it was going to be
The
45-37.
37, yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then Clemson beats SMU. Clemson refuses to die.
Clemson
SMU,
did
I'm
not
very
beat
disappointed
SMU. That
in
beat is not a
your.
good word.
Yeah, it is. They beat them.
I don't like the word beat.
What else would you say?
They won the game.
That's what beat means.
No.
I didn't say they dog walked them. I didn't say we're not doing this. Clemson beats SMU. SMU, if they would have played like they in the fourth quarter, like they did all game, they would have won that game. I think this is one of the first time that SMU like just didn't look great. But then they came back, so
It
it
was
was
just
still
in
a
the
really
first
good game.
quarter.
It was too much to come back from. But it was a good game, and I'm glad that it was close because as we spent 20 minutes, as DJ spent 20 minutes crashing out, and it's so good to have you crash out and not me because like I'm typically the crash out.
I
If
told
that
you I was
would have
going to
been a
crash out.
blowout, if that would have been a blowout, SMU would not have been in. And it's not
No.
fair. It's not fair, but everything we said would not have mattered if SMU lost that game by 17.
Well, they said, and
So
they
the fact
mentioned that
they
on the
came back
selection show that
is
a
good
lot
for
of it,
everyone involved.
yeah. They said on the selection show that a lot of it did also have to do with the way that we played last night as to why, there was a case to be made that two ACC teams should make it in because it wasn't a, Arizona State, Iowa State like sort of situation.
Yeah.
We played at a very, very high level. It was just that those first quarter jitters that, the situation that was going on. And then, I mean, even Dabo said himself, the field goal was miraculous. They've never made a field goal from that far before. So
Crazy.
even they recognize that they are barely there.
Yep.
Emphasis on barely.
Yes.
I need to stop crashing out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just, oh gosh, we were supposed to win.
Okay, so I am going to very quickly run through all of the bowl games. You stop me when you have a matchup that you find interesting. Not saying that they're not interesting, but if you don't have anything interesting to say about any of them, we're just going to read them off. But if you have something to say, you stop me. I'm just going to run through them really quickly. Celebration Bowl, Jackson State versus South Carolina State. The Celebration Bowl, I believe, is the HBCU National Championship. I am not saying that name. South Alabama versus Western Michigan is in some bowl game that the name is way too long. The Frisco Bowl,
where are we at? Sorry.
IS4S salute to veterans. What the hell is that? Like,
and
that is not that is not like that. What the hell is that for the veterans? Like, that's not disrespectful to veterans. Some of y'all be sensitive. That's just a crazy name. That's long. So we need I don't know. That's what I'm saying. We need a limit on bowl names. Like, this is crazy.
Integrated Solutions for Systems.
No, not doing that. Frisco Bowl, Memphis versus West Virginia, Boca Raton Bowl. See, Frisco Bowl is in Frisco, Texas. Frisco Bowl, Frisco, Texas. Boca Raton Bowl is in Boca Raton, Florida. That's what it needs to be. There needs to be a word.
Okay.
That's my whole point. There needs to be a word. LA. It's literally just the LA Bowl. Where's it at? Inglewood, California. That's
I don't feel as strongly.
Simple. Cal UNLV. New Orleans.
I don't feel as strongly about it. Go ahead.
New Orleans. Where's that at? Georgia Southern versus Sam Houston. The Cure Bowl, Ohio versus Jacksonville State. The Gasparilla Bowl, Florida versus Tulane. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. I can't imagine where that's at. Coastal Carolina versus UTSA. The Potato Bowl, Fresno State versus Northern Illinois. The Hawaii Bowl, South Florida versus San Jose State. Both. That is so unfair. To all the teams that play in the cold.
Oh, you know what? That is true. Because
why don't we go to Hawaii? Send them to the Idaho Bowl.
Send them to Boise, Idaho.
send them to the Idaho Bowl. What are we doing? You gonna send the two warm weather teams to the warm weather place? That is so wrong. That's wrong. Y'all are wrong for that. Y'all didn't think about this. Y'all ain't think about this. Northern Illinois should be in the Hawaii Bowl. They need that vacation. It's warm in Florida. That's
It's
bullshit.
oh my gosh. Okay, keep going.
Game above sports. Pitt versus Toledo. Rate Kansas State Rutgers. 68 Ventures. Don't like that name.
Hey,
Arkansas State versus Bowling Green. Birmingham. God, I wonder where that could be. Georgia Tech versus Vanderbilt.
I'm
Armed
here for that one.
Forces.
I will
Oklahoma.
be interested in that one.
Okay, we like that one. Armed Forces. Oklahoma versus Navy. Liberty. Texas Tech versus Arkansas. The Holiday Bowl. Syracuse versus Washington State. The Las Vegas Bowl. USC versus Texas A&M. The
I'm
Finley
into that.
Bowl. North Carolina versus UConn. The Pinstripe Bowl. I think I'm going to this bowl game. Boston College versus Nebraska. I'm definitely
Ooh,
that one, and I do think I'm going to that game. New Mexico. TCU versus Louisiana. The Pop Tarts Bowl. Miami versus Iowa State. The Arizona Bowl. Colorado State versus Miami of Ohio. The Military Bowl. There's a lot of military-related bowls.
a
NC
lot. Yeah,
TCU. The Alamo Bowl.
I will be watching this.
Versus Colorado. Very interested
Yeah,
in that one. And the Independence Bowl. Army versus Marshall. Music City Bowl. Missouri versus Iowa. ReliaQuest Bowl. Michigan versus Alabama. I
I'm
have
gonna
never
watch that.
rooted for Michigan. I will never root for Michigan, but they have the chance to do the funniest thing.
They
So
had the yeah.
that's all I'm going to say. My Big Ten loyalty stops at Michigan. There are 17 teams in the conference. I can't, like, bowl season, I can't do the whole root for Michigan thing, but that would be hilarious. Sun Bowl, Louisville versus Washington. That, I think, is going to be interesting.
That's gonna be fun.
The Citrus Bowl, Illinois versus South Carolina. I'm into it. The Texas Bowl, Baylor versus LSU. Not into that. The Gator Bowl, Duke versus Ole Miss. Very much not into that. The First Responders Bowl, North Texas versus Texas State. That's lame. That bowl is in Dallas. You pick two Texas teams.
2 Texas teams to go to Dallas.
Duke's
That's
Mayo
boring.
Bowl, Minnesota versus Virginia Tech. I'm low-key maybe into that. And then the Bahamas Bowl. And listen, this is how you do a bowl. You know who's going to the Bahamas Bowl? Fucking Buffalo. You
And
know
they
who's
deserve
going to
it.
Buffalo, New York.
It's raining
snowing.
feet.
I
Raining,
live in
snowing,
New York.
yes.
I live in New York. I be watching Buffalo on TV. Like, how is this the same state? It'd be cool where I live, and it's and I know how, because Ohio's the same way. Like, I live in Northeast Ohio. We get lake effect snow. Like, literally, like, when me and my wife were dating, she would leave Kent where it's snowing to drive to Columbus, and by the time she got to Columbus, the temperature changed like 15 degrees. Like,
That's
she would be in the
craziness.
car with a coat, and by the time she got to Columbus, she's like, yeah, it's not that bad. Like, it's not snowing. Not that it wasn't cold. It wasn't like, but it'd be like 10-degree wind chill, ice and snow, and then it'd be like 35 in Columbus or something like that. And I'm just like, I'm glad you're having a fucking great time. We're snowed in. So I do understand how weather works, but that is who needs to be in the Bahamas. Buffalo.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, fix it. Fix it, Jesus. Florida does not need to be
Fix
there.
it, Jesus.
Northern Illinois needs to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, your reward. Illinois couldn't get it, right? Iowa State. What are we talking? Colorado State.
We're
Like,
still
they're all
experiencing
here.
a crash
Boston
out, ladies and gentlemen.
College?
He
This is
still
not
found
a-
a way to crash out
This
on this
is not a-
episode.
This is not a crash out. I just think it is
It's crash outy
unfair for South Florida,
to go to Hawaii.
Miami,
Yes.
to get to leave Miami for a free trip to Hawaii.
Yes, I agree.
Disrespectful. That's disrespectful. Shout out to the Bahamas for getting it right. Buffalo, y'all need that. Y'all have earned this vacation. Like, y'all need this more than anybody.
Oh
It
gosh.
be snowing up there, boy. I tell you.
That was something to witness. That was something to witness. And then obviously, as y'all know, the main marquee bowls, Rose Sugar Peach Fiesta, are counting as the quarterfinals for the playoffs.
Even that for long.
So the marquee bowls, obviously only one half of the opponents have been determined: Oregon, Georgia, Arizona, Boise, and then we'll play the first round to see who they play. So yes, I will be in Pennsylvania, obviously, for when SMU plays Penn State.
Okay.
Never been to Pennsylvania before.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do podcast business. You keep giving. We haven't. These. We haven't even set the bracket. You keep responding to the bracket. Number one,
We're talking about the bowl
Georgia.
games.
Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Boise. Number 4, Arizona State. As we already mentioned, they got it right by making Boise and Arizona State the buys and not Clemson. Those are the buys. That makes sense. That's fair. Those
You
should be who
want
they
to
are.
fight me, but yes, that does make sense. That
No,
is fair.
I just want like when we like
You
we're
want to
looking
throw
at
hands with me, and it's
number
fine.
5, Texas. Number 6, Penn State. Number 7, Notre Dame. Number 8, Ohio State. Tennessee is 9. Indiana is 10. SMU is 11. Clemson is 12. Which
Yes.
means, so you can finally get your thoughts out. Now
No,
that
it's fine.
made sense. Texas will host Clemson as a 5-12. Penn State will host SMU as the 6-11. Notre Dame will host Indiana, which is a big game for the state of Indiana, as the 7-12 game. And Ohio State will host Tennessee as the 8-9 game. The winner, Boise State, as it goes, Boise State will play the winner of Penn State SMU. Arizona State will play the winner of Texas Clemson. Oregon will play the winner of Ohio State Tennessee. And Georgia will play the winner of Georgia Notre Dame.
Indiana, Notre Dame.
Yes. My computer's about to die.
Oh, isn't that fabulous? You don't have a computer that plugs into the wall?
I just don't have the charger. What are you talking about?
Like a desktop. I thought you were on a desktop this whole time.
Oh, no, I have a laptop. So we'll take our second random pause, but this one,
your fault.
We'll plan for. Welcome back. Y'all didn't go anywhere. This is edited, so there was no real break here. Everyone's like, man, wow, Jordan's having a horrible podcast. No, I actually did that on purpose because we said we were going to be done at a certain time. And I was like, my computer's fully charged. I just won't charge it. So when it says it's died, it tells me that we need to wrap up. So we need to wrap up. But life happened and things, and so we're off schedule, off of things that can't be controlled. So, but I did not just get to plug in my computer. I was just like, I'm exhausted. You've had a day. We'll just knock this out. So if we're still recording when my computer dies, we have a problem. Now, totally separate problem. My computer dies in an hour. This is a new computer. That's not how that's supposed to work. We'll talk about that another day.
It's only keeping a charge for an hour?
I think it's also like, video, right? Like it's doing a lot. Like,
it's a lot. Yeah.
If I was just typing a paper, I'd probably get more than an hour, but like you're pulling a lot. But that's a whole nother conversation. All right. So you asked me a question. Before I answer your question, I'm so jealous that you get to go to that game. Penn State is going to be one of the best environments you've ever seen. It's going to be freezing. It is going to be freezing. I don't want to talk about that. In Texas.
I don't want to talk about the weather right now. I will worry about that at another time.
No, I got to help you out. This is weird. If you've never heard this before, you might not be able to buy your coat in Texas.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I need to buy it online.
Either online or when you touch down, go to Walmart, buy a coat, and then just return it.
Yeah.
But don't bring your Texas coat to Penn State.
I mean, I don't have a Texas coat. I have a Missouri coat. But yes.
That don't count. Don't bring that coat. Get one online. Missouri's not cold enough. Why are you making that face? Missouri's not cold enough.
Because Missouri is cold. It snows in Missouri.
Snow and cold enough are not the same thing. Penn State is in the mountains.
Oh my God.
It snows. It's not Penn State. I'm trying to help you out before you.
I understand what you're saying.
With your frozen fingers on the sideline, talking about.
I will have hot hands.
But I'm cold. I live in Texas. 40 degrees is cold. So
I was gonna be cold. Let's be honest.
I'm praying for good weather for y'all, but it's
It's gonna be
Probably
cold.
not going to
It's
happen.
December 21st. It's going to be cold.
Yeah, and Penn State's in
We
the mountains,
My
so
nose will be red. Like it's where yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But
It's
yeah,
gonna be cold.
I'm glad that you know that don't take any coat that you bought in the South. Like that is not going to do nothing for
He
you.
said that will not help.
um, I wish that I could go to that game. I wish I could go to any of these games. You'll love Penn State. You will not like State College, but you will love the atmosphere of the game.
Oh
And
yeah. I'm thrilled.
so you asked me a question. You said people think that Penn State has the easiest path,
Well,
and
I
that
didn't
is
say Penn State. I
well,
said the
the,
sixth seed,
no,
just
okay,
that particular space. Yeah.
no. So there's when they say that they're specifically talking about Penn State
They
because
literally said the sixth seed.
I know I'm explaining it to you because they're specifically talking about Penn State. The reason why they're talking about Penn State when this conversation happens, it's always about the 5 seed, which is the easier seed. But because this year was weird, Clemson is the 12 instead of the 12 being Boise. So the 5 seed this year is no longer the easier seed because you have to play Clemson. That then moved to the 6 seed because of how the seeding shaked out. In a normal year, the easy seed and the thing that we've been talking about all year is the 5th seed because the way they expect it to go is the 5th seed traditionally at number 12 would play the G5 champion, who would be
Hmm.
Boise, and then they would play number 4, who is most likely going to be the Big 12 champion. It just
Hmm.
didn't work out this way because both of those got the buys. So now number 5 has to play Clemson. So when they say 6, it's because of this bracket. It's not the 6 seed in general. And a quote unquote normal bracket, the 6 seed is one of the harder seeds because in most cases that 11 matchup is going to be that 9-3 Alabama that they wanted to get in. It's going to be
Hmm.
like it's typically going to be like the 6 seed is typically harder. This year, it I they're saying it's not. I'm going to advocate against that line of thinking because I think they're disrespecting the teams that are in those two games. But the 5 seed in a traditional year when Clemson is not at 12 is absolutely the easiest seed in the playoffs. And that's why a lot of people are like, should you even want to go to your, like, you should want, like, people were literally saying, would Oregon lose the Big Ten championship game on purpose so that they could get the 5 seed and play Boise State and BYU, Arizona State, Colorado, whoever was going to win the Big 12?
That's so dumb. I hate lose on purpose conversations. Shut up. I don't want to hear
Yeah,
it.
it's done.
That is so dumb.
This year, it does seem as though Penn State has the easiest path. My problem with that conversation is people ain't watched Penn State play. Um, Penn State has a lot of flaws. We like Penn State, but Penn State there's a conversation to have where I'm not trying to downplay Penn State, but you also have to be realistic. Penn
Yeah.
State, like Indiana, like Texas, played nobody. They got to their place because Ryan Day's a fucking loser, not necessarily because they earned it, because they would not have been there if Ryan Day handled business. So we're
Right.
looking at Penn State through the lens of they made it to the Big Ten championship, and they're not looking at the whole picture. SMU could easily beat Penn State.
I agree.
Like, give me a week because we're not doing predictions.
Yeah.
Give me a week, I might predict it. And then on top of that, because of um, Penn State's offensive things, like they exploded against Oregon, but like Oregon had their worst defensive showing. I can't believe Penn
That
State scored
day. Yeah.
37 points against Oregon.
Yeah.
Um, that's not a great sign for Oregon, but they had 3 weeks to get their defense back in line. Um, then Penn State would play Boise,
Yes.
and they get to play Boise when Ashton Genty gets
3 weeks of rest.
multiple weeks of rest.
Yeah.
That's scary. And they're what they're gonna do is they're gonna hold the ball forever and they're gonna run the ball. And if Penn State is not a really a quick start offense, and if their running game doesn't work, which hasn't worked in a couple of games, they could easily lose that one. So I very much think that this is looking at the names and not like I get the thought. And if Oregon or Ohio State or maybe even not Texas, but like there are a couple of teams that if they were in that spot, I might agree. I think Penn State should be worried, but that's all I'll say because
Interesting.
we have to tease things. We need content for
Yes.
next week. So I won't say nothing else.
I'm not asking for predictions. I
Right?
was asking that specific question about
Yeah,
the 6th seed because they kept saying it over and over again. And I'm like, I don't know. I was
yeah.
just kind of like, is it because y'all saying that we scrubs and they just gonna run through both us and Boise easily? Is that what y'all are
Yes,
saying? Because I
but they did
I
not
don't
watch
agree.
the football. So
Yeah, I was like, because
uh,
I didn't agree either.
on
Like
yeah
the thought
on
process that you have is
paper,
the same one I have.
yeah, on paper, that is what that sounds like. That is what they think. I've watched all those teams play.
I don't think I was like to me at the 6th seed, this group here are the most evenly matched out of all of the different groupings. Like in my opinion. So that's why I was kind of like, what? I don't know about that, but well, we're just gonna have to see, won't we?
Yeah, the one thing that I'll tell you absolutely for sure, Oregon's fucked. Like, and I'm
Completely.
not saying that because I think they're going to lose to Ohio State.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: if and oof, brother, I hate to say this because Ryan Day's a loser. If there is any team in this bracket who can beat Oregon, it is Ohio State.
It's Ohio State. I
If
agree.
Ryan Day gets out of his way, and that is, oh boy, that is a big if. That is such a big if. If Ryan Day can get out of his way for 60 minutes, if there is any team that can beat Oregon, it is Ohio State. Because we watch that game and we forget in that game everything that could go Oregon's way went Oregon's
Went
way,
Oregon's way.
and they won by one. I will leave it at that. I will bring that up when we're previewing games. But just remember I said it. Every single thing that could go Oregon's way went Oregon's way, and they won by 1 point.
1 point.
That they may well beat Ohio State again. They may well do it. But the fact that they have to do it
That's
sucks
the
for
thing.
them.
Yeah,
That sucks for them.
that's the thing.
That sucks. And then if I need to look at the picture bracket, the side of the bracket that they're on, that then means their next game is Texas, Clemson, or Arizona State.
Yeah, it's one of them three. Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
If I was them, I would much rather be on the Indiana, Notre Dame, SMU, or Penn State side. They just beat
Yeah.
Penn State, right? They just beat Penn State. They
Yeah.
already beat Boise. They're one of the teams that if they had the SMU, I think they'd win that game. I think they'd win SMU. They would beat Indiana. They would probably beat Georgia. Essentially, everyone on the other side of the
Other
bracket,
side.
I
Yeah.
think that they would win. The
Yeah.
team that can beat Oregon just happen to be on Oregon side of the bracket,
On this side.
and they
Yeah.
may do it. And if they do it, I will give them so much credit because my problem
Oh
with
yeah.
Oregon is they talk so much shit and they hadn't won anything. And if they win it, I give it to them because I don't hate
Yeah.
Oregon. I just hate the arrogance that kind of came with this and the fact that I also don't think that they think long term because I always thought Oregon was going to be good this year. But the thing
Eventually.
with the
Yeah.
Big Ten is you could look at Michigan. If things don't work for you next year, you could go from the mountaintop to winning 7 games. Like the Big Ten is actually a hard conference. You just entered at the best time with whatever, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
But yeah, Oregon's got they may win it. They're a good team. They're fucked. If they win it, they have the hardest path, and it
They
should
have
not
it.
be
Yeah.
that way as the 1 seed.
I agree. But here comes the chaos.
Yeah.
This is
Can't wait.
This is very exciting. But yes, we will obviously give you guys a full sit down, breakdown, talk about the matchups, do the whole thing, college football playoff conversation. Not today because those games don't start until literally late December. So we are just previewing some of our opinions.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have any final thoughts before we end the show? Get to our 2-minute warning.
I really wanted to go to the Peach Bowl, and so I'm very sad that we're not going.
And welcome to the cold.
And now I have to go to the mountains.
It's Atlanta?
Yeah, and we actually booked our flights. And I remember saying to my manager, he said, we need to go ahead and book it. I said, why? And he was like, well, because like, that's the bowl that we would go to. I said, if we win. And he was like, right. And I'm like, the championship game is in 3 days. Like, I don't want to book my flight right now. Cause I'm a
Yeah,
very firm believer in like, I don't like doing presumptuous stuff like that. Like, call me suspicious or superstitious or whatever you want to say. I don't like doing that type of stuff. I understand that I work in a particular area of the industry where we do have to plan ahead, right? Like, we do
but you
have to
should
go
have done
ahead
it for
and
both.
yes, exactly. That's what I was saying because I was just kind of like, I don't want to sit here and just book a flight for Atlanta because that's the best case scenario. Like, we need to think through like all the different flights that we would potentially need to book because we're sitting here and assuming that we're going to beat Clemson. And that's not something that we should assume, number one. And again, I feel like that just in general. Like, I don't like doing presumptuous shit when it comes to sports because I do feel like you can put that type of like bad energy into the air without trying. But
Oh,
like,
so are you saying when Ryan Day never imagined, never once pictured that he could lose to Michigan, he was being presumptuous, and it maybe showed out on the field because sorry, maybe that's not the point that you were making.
that was nope.
Maybe I jumped.
That
Maybe I
was
jumped. Maybe
nope. You didn't.
jumping to
That's the
conclusion.
point though.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I don't like being presumptuous. I don't like assuming anything. That's why even if you guys have noticed on the show, it took me several weeks to start drinking the SMU Kool-Aid because I just did not want to be presumptuous. I don't want to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, it's happening," if it's not happening. And I was really irritated. Like as a just a sports person and a little bit of a superstitious person, like I was the type when I played basketball, I always wore the same socks, I always wore the same shoes, I always wore the same sports bras. Like I always did things exactly the same because I felt like that had something to do with my success. I just was very irritated. I was like, I don't feel like we need to be booking these flights yet. Like, I feel like we can wait until the Monday after the championship to book whatever flights we need to book. Because guess what I have to do now on Monday? Cancel my flight to Atlanta and rebook. It's like
Ooh.
now I have to go cancel my flight to Atlanta and book my flight to University, whatever, Pennsylvania, because we were being presumptuous.
I cannot wait for your rant when you see what you have to do to get into state college.
I'm I can't even deal.
Because I know what you have to do to get into state
I'm
college.
scared.
You don't know what you have to
I
do to
know.
get into
I'm
state college.
scared.
What I will tell you, go to your supervisor
Oh God.
and have a real conversation. State college is not a place that you can just get to. And also, I hope that y'all's hotel is in the block that was already created for whoever
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with the
We're
team.
staying at the team hotel.
Good.
Yeah,
Because if you weren't,
yeah,
cut.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait till you see what you have to do to get into state college.
Oh
State college
Lord,
is one
I'm
of the
not
hardest
thrilled.
places to go.
I can't believe it.
Um,
I can't
and
believe
you're doing commercial.
as opposed to
You could fly with the team private.
oh no, no, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good luck.
No, we're flying commercially.
We'll see that in a couple of weeks. All
Oh
right.
man, no,
Any
no. But yeah, that was my final thought is I thought that I did think that we were being a little presumptuous. And by we, I just mean kind of everybody that was working at SMU. Like, you should never be too confident. Just like TCU. They shouldn't have been too confident. They thought they was hot shit and they just got smacked by South Carolina. And I do mean smacked.
smacked.
I do mean smacked. Like it was they were never winning this game.
Crazy.
So anyways, those are my final thoughts.
So to wrap up final thoughts with additional final thoughts in our 2 minute warning, as we always end the show, my 2 minute warning is pretty simple. It is that I don't think that you can do any wrong between Travis Hunter and Aston Genty.
Oh yes. Hmm.
But I do think there is a conversation to be had for those people. Essentially, I don't have a vote. I don't care who wins. Like I root for everybody black.
Right.
I think
Period.
this is one of the hardest Heisman conversations to have. I think it's not cut and dry, and it shouldn't be cut and dry. And I think if you don't put real thought into this for the people who have to vote, you should never be able to vote again, because there is a real conversation to be had that Aston Genty was so good that not only is he going to break the record in his next game, he got Boise State, a G5 team, Yeah, a G5 team to the number 3 seed in the playoffs in a bye. Like not even the 4 seed. Boise was always projected to be 12. Was always projected to be 12. And
Yeah.
he was so good. His performance was so good that he got Boise to undefeated or 11 and 1 because they lost to Oregon, but they almost beat Oregon. They gave Oregon their second best game. Maybe you'll say third, depending on how you feel about the Penn State. But outside of Ohio State, they're arguably Oregon's second best game. Maybe third, again, depending on how you feel about Penn State, but second best in the regular season. Behind him, took this team to the 3 seed. Like, and Boise could legitimately beat SMU or Penn State. So behind him, he may take Boise to the semifinals. So
Hmm.
it's just I think that I get the Travis Hunter thing. It's almost unfathomable that either of them could lose.
I know. I want
Like
to give
what
it to both
they've
of them, but I don't
done,
believe in
it
doing that.
like it's almost unfathomable that either of them could lose because you
I
do
know.
also have to give credit to being whatever top 10, top 15 at both positions, playing all those snaps, right? Colorado did not make it as far, but they wouldn't have made it as far as they did without him. They still won 8 or 9 games for the first time in a very
9.
long time, 9 games,
Yeah.
maybe ever. Like his impact on his team, especially from where they were last year, is also huge. Did it on both sides of the ball, like all of that. I just don't think it's as cut and dry. I also think there is a chance that Ashton wins because I do think there are a lot of people who vote based on the last thing that they see. And
Yeah.
his last 2 games, he ran for 200 plus yards. Like, listen, Travis finished really strong too. His last game was 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Like, but then Ashton got a second game after that,
Yeah.
and he ran for 200 yards again. So I just don't think it's as cut and dry that they're gonna win. And I think that this is crazy that we've gotten these types of performances in the same year because
Yeah.
most years like who the Heisman is, and one of them is gonna lose after what
Yeah.
they did, and that sucks.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I feel like it's so unfortunate for Ashton that Travis Hunter decided to not be human this season. Like, it's so unfortunate for Ashton because I think that he would have been cut and dry the winner. But Travis Hunter, to me, is also doing things that nobody has ever done. And this is not to shade Ashton because what Ashton has done is also remarkable, right? But he's also not the first person to run 2,000 yards in a college football season. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just not. Granted, that's not to diminish what he has done. It's just to say that like you have a Travis Hunter who could easily be a top draft pick on both sides of the ball. Like in my opinion, you almost have to award that over someone who ran for 2,000 yards. And I hate to like diminish it, but I to your point, because of how far Boise State made it into the postseason, I feel like that's the one thing that's going to edge Travis Hunter out is that Colorado didn't make it to the postseason. That by the time the Heisman is given out, he would have not played football for 3 weeks. Whereas Ashton would be on his first round bye. Like, I don't know. That's the part. But I do think, and I've also seen a lot of conversations about how Travis Hunter may not be as much of a Heisman contender because he had Shador and they kind of were elevating each other's success and all this other stuff. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know about all that, but we shall see. We shall see. I do think they're giving it to Travis though. It sucks though because someone like Ashton shouldn't be losing the Heisman,
Yeah,
but
it's insane.
it's crazy.
And then next year we're gonna go back to who hum whatever quarterback
Some
is.
random quarterback. Yeah. Yeah. They're going
um,
to,
yeah.
but yeah, that'll
Was
count.
that your 2 minute warning, or do you have a different one?
I had a different one. The biggest thing is the Golden State Valkyries, which is the newest WNBA expansion team, did their draft on Friday. I'm scared of that team. And that's really all I have to say. I am scared of that team. I cannot believe some of the people that these teams didn't core. Like, I can't believe that New York didn't core Caitlin Thornton. I can't believe that Washington did not core Vandaloo. They've got some really great shooters. They've got some size, and then they did steal the Las Vegas Aces golden child rookie Kate Martin. I do believe they're setting her up to be the face of that franchise. Um, and that's going to be scary times. Their first game is against the Sparks, so I am very excited. But yeah, they didn't take no prisoners with the draft. Did you see all the people that they chose?
Yes, but I don't know all of them. So
They they
like
took no.
it looked good, but I don't know. Like I love the WNBA, but at its core, it's still basketball. So like I don't know.
Yeah, you're not a basketball guy. I know. Well, the only person, and this is the hilarious part of it, someone said that they had to make up someone. The only person I didn't know who she was, because I don't think she touched the ball at any point during the season, was the chick that they chose from Chicago. I was like, who is that? And they were like, y'all, they just went and got somebody random so they wouldn't take any of our people.
Well, yeah, I mean Chicago don't have nobody, but
Yeah, but I was just like,
respectfully, all of their best players, like they have, if they have six good players, they have six good players. They don't have
they
seven.
have six. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
it'll be fun. It'll be very interesting. I think that they have a pretty solid team. So
Yeah, and the only thing with that is like they also have free agency. I don't know who's going to be a free agent, but they have the ability
a
to
few
make the
people.
roster better with
Yeah,
that as well. Because that's the one thing with like the technically the expansion draft does limit you because you're never going to get a superstar because
yeah,
all
of course.
the
Yeah,
superstar. So they are still missing that superstar, and because they got the fourth pick instead of one of the top three, there may or may not be a superstar there as well. So
yeah.
they may just be like a really solid team, but they don't. And the WNBA is going through its super team era, so it would be interesting to follow to see if they can get that one person via trade and it's not that they don't have good players, but they don't have the
They don't have
person.
the one. Yeah,
So
yeah,
and so it depends on who if they can get anyone in free agency and if they get lucky in that there's just four stars in the draft, which every
there
sport
might be though.
some years there are, some years there's not. You never
Yeah,
know. It just depends. There were more than four really good players out of this year's draft, the
yeah,
2024 draft, so maybe that could happen again.
yeah.
But you never know. So I think that's interesting.
It's just so sad that I had to wait until next spring to see all of this play out. But yes, that was my 2 in the morning.
As always, we thank you for listening. We do hope that you follow us on YouTube at Get Defensive Sports Network. Y'all don't experience this, but this was one of our hardest recordings for multiple
It
reasons.
was it was hard.
So we got through this. Hope that you still enjoy the episode. There was a lot of random things that don't typically come up while we're recording. Lots of stops, a lot of things. But
Yeah. Jordan wanted me
follow
to fight me.
at Get Defensive Sports Network. Follow Twitter, not Twitter. Don't have a Twitter. Follow Instagram, and we'll catch you next week. Where maybe we will give you more insight. We're just going to drop little nuggets, but I think we actually have two more episodes before we actually have to give you a prediction because it's so far away.
Uh, one,
Oh no!
one,
Next
just
week,
one.
next
Yeah.
week we'll give you our actual thoughts on the college football playoffs. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.